This is guitar maintenance day. Gonna clean up and restring my Gibson ES-335 TD. ES was a term that stood for electric Spanish. 335 I've heard was because when they first came on the market in 1958, that's what they charged for them, $335. There's also a 345 and a 355, and they have slightly more ornate features that cause them to cost more. The 335 was designed by a gentleman by the name of Ted McCarty, who also designed the Flying V and the Gibson Explorer, and was pretty famous at Gibson. So what we're going to need: strings. I like Diodarios, and we're going to need something to cut the strings with. This comes in handy when you're unstringing. And for intonation, we're going to need a little screwdriver, something to wind the strings with. I like that just because it's a little more convenient. And a little wrench to maybe adjust the tuners if they're loose. Also, lemon oil to treat the fretboard, polish for the body, and they call this nut sauce, and that is for lubricating the nut because of the angle on Gibsons. A lot of times the strings can stick. So this generally takes about an hour to do. I'm going to be editing this video, so it shouldn't take as long. I'll be taking out the repetitive bits. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get started here. First thing we want to do is get all the strings off. I have found that my two favorite guitars are the Gibson ES and the Telecaster, the Fender Telecaster. You can only have two guitars, in my view. Those two will do the job. I like to get these strings just loose enough so I can pull them up over the tuning post, like so. Other thing you want to be really careful about is when you're restringing the guitar or doing any kind of guitar maintenance, you want to be careful not to scratch it up, because that's not good. And also, ideally, you don't stick your fingers when you're trying to unstring a guitar either. Like I said, this usually takes, depending on how much maintenance you're going to do, it's usually going to take you about an hour. If you're not going to do any polishing or fret treatment. See, look, I already got my finger. If you're not going to be doing any polishing or fret treatment, I think you can do it in about 30 minutes. It also works better if you've got good eyesight, which I don't have. I'm going to grab my readers. Okay, let's try this again. Oh, much better. So some of the newer bridges, Epiphone is doing this a lot. It's got like a little pin in there that makes it so the bridge sticks. But anyway, we're just going to take that, set that aside for now. Now, the other part we want that lifts off easily is the other part of the Tunomatic bridge. We're going to take that off. And now we are to cleanup time. And with that, I'm going to grab my polish cloth. I like using the Gibson spray polish, actually. If you get like finite cracks, this guitar polish is more of a polish compound, and that works well. But just for regular day-to-day stuff, this is fine. The other thing is, as you do this, you want to make sure not to turn these down any. You want, so as I polish around there, I'm going to be holding those parts still so that they don't crank down and cause my action to become higher or lower than I want it. I like the way this guitar is set up, so I want to just leave it the way it is. So I'm going to hold those guys down when I'm polishing around them, like so. What I do is I guess kind of liberally get this on the this polish on the polish cloth. I'm going to start with the wet cloth to polish it up, and then I'll come back over it with my dry cloth. Get all the sweat, gunk that gets on here when you're playing, get it off. And the other thing I do is I want to, for when I'm restring it, I want to have the holes for the string to go through to go this way through the guitar. So I'm going to get the tuners set up. So when I restring, those holes will all be aiming the same way, like that. There we go. There we go. And there we go. So those are ready to go. There's that. Now we get the dry cloth. Same thing. Careful to hold these bits down here so they don't change the height of the strings. Get a nice shine on there, and then also it just makes it so silky smooth that okay, then we want to treat the fretboard, and you're going to notice this fretboard's kind of dry right now. So when we put this lemon oil on here, we're gonna get this. You're gonna see it just kind of come to life. Let me start at this, and you'll be able to see better. I'm gonna let this just soak on a little bit. Now, see it darkening up there. What you want to do is just let it sit in there for a little bit. Let the fretboard drink it up. Anyway, after I do this, since I'm dealing with a kind of oil here, I'll want to go and wash my hands before I touch the rest of the guitar. A little cotton ball. And rub it in, just work it in. Nice and dark and pretty. There we go. And like I said, the fretboard's just going to drink up that you can see kind of a sheen on there, but the fretboard's going to drink this up. By the time we're done polishing here, you won't see that anymore. So I'm feeling a little oil on my hands. Before I do that, let's do the nut sauce. What I do is just get a little bit of this on here. There we go. And and by the way, I had this wrench here for tightening up the tuners if they needed to. That was this little wrench, but they're nice and snug, so we're not going to need to do that. Anyway, we're going to come in here, just work a little bit of that in to the nut. Get just a little more on this little guy because down near the high E string and the B and the G, it's a little bit too narrow for that other one. There we go, and that's just going to lubricate that just enough so the strings will slide a little bit better. Okay, now we are ready to restring. Put our bridge back on here and our tailpiece back on here. See if this is going to stay on its own. Yeah, we're going to hold that off for a second just till we get the first string on there to hold it on. And generally, I don't know that it matters, but I usually try to get these on here so that they're sliding in like that. And we go up here. The other thing I do is generally I'll go one distance of from here to here. I'm restringing the first string right here. So I'm gonna take the length up to right there, and then I'm gonna bring it through from this side, from the inside. Okay, when I get to the other side, I'll also bring it. So the inside to the out, I wrap around the top, underneath, and over. And so see, I just made basically a little bend right there. And now that string is not gonna go anywhere. Once I've done that, I can begin to rewind. Okay, next string. See, once I got that first one in, it held it right. Oh, the other thing is you wanna make sure that you're seated on the bridge saddle right there, which we are. Again, we're going to feed from the end. It's going to start about an inch above the pull piece. Feed from the inside to the out through the hole there. Around the top, underneath, and then straight over again like that. You want these to be sure to wind downward. So, I don't know if I said it, but Ted McCarty designed the ES-335 for Gibson. He was an executive at Gibson. And the ES-335 first came out in 1958. And it was the 335, what they call the 335 dot, and that referred to the inlays. Mine has block inlays, which were first introduced in, I think, 1961. So this model is kind of more modeled after a 61. But mine was born in, I think, December 19th of 2020. But it's a classic design, so Hasn't undergone a whole lot of changes because it's great just like it is. Okay, so boom. I like to make sure that those guys are still bent the way they should be. And then we can cut these guys off because we're not going to need that extra string anymore. I like to leave, you know, maybe at least 1/8 of an inch, less than 1/4 of an inch. Gives you enough room for your fingernail to get underneath there when you go to change the strings in the future. And the next thing we're going to do is tune up. Well, first we got to tune it up. And then I've got my Boss TU12 guitar tuner here. It's a good accurate tuner for doing, especially when you're going to be checking, fixing intonation. And let's get into a basic tune first. We want that to be, wow, I had it pretty close. It needs to be E. There's E. Okay, now basic tune. Now, what we got to do is we got to stretch these strings, otherwise it just won't stay in tune. And every part of the string, like right here, you need to stretch that, you need to stretch this. All the way up the string. Just pulling on in one place just makes it loose in one place, so you kind of got to go all the way along here. See how I'm doing this, going up. The same thing here, next string that's in the E string. Let's go check our tuning again. That's better. Okay, now, so intonation. What you do on intonation is you want to do the harmonic tuning, which is this. On the 12th fret, I'm going to just touch this and go, okay, good, I'm in tune. And then I want to fret that note on the 12th fret. So I'm a little okay, I'm good. Don't need to check anything. But generally what happens is if the fretted note is flat, then it'd be shortened. So think flat, short. If the fretted note is sharp, the string length needs to be lengthened, and we adjust that on the tune-o-matic bridge here. So that was good. Okay, now on this one, the fretted note is sharp. So this is where I take my little screwdriver here on the D string, and I'm going to turn it so it makes the string just a little bit longer, which is going to be a counterclockwise turn. I just turn it a little bit. Let's try it again. And generally when you do this, you gotta retune that whole string again. Now, okay, fretted is in tune. There, that was good. Didn't take much at all. And with that said, we have a nice, polished, shiny, fresh-stringed, treated fretboard. Right. And that is Randy's guitar maintenance of the day. Oh, by the way, check out www.bandofrandys.com. I got an album out. Would love for you to hear it. And with that said, thank you.